Good morning, everybody. I am Tommy, and you are on the Love Boat. What's happening? Hey, Barbara. Hey, Jane. Sandy, Wendy, Ashley G. You know, it's funny. Barbara and Jane, they're really close friends. They're sisters. I never see their names pop up one right after the other like that. Tommy Bird, good to see you. Seriously, and all the time I'm here, I don't think I've ever seen him in the morning, one right after the other. What's that? Yeah, my brother said he hasn't either. It is interesting. And my brother is here. Boy, I got stuff to tell you about him too. Sandy, Wendy, how are you? This is going to be a good one, folks. I'm not kidding you. This is going to be a good one. Do you remember Footloose? It's a great movie. TXJ, if I've never said hello to you, welcome to the Love Boat. You're in a cool place. And from Massachusetts, what's happening? Captain Capsaicin, good morning to you. Good morning. So, remember that movie Footloose with where the guys did the dancing thing because the town didn't allow dancing. Hell of a movie. Ashley G, Cheryl Niles, what's happening? Archie's mom, good to see you. You know, I went and I trimmed this so that it wouldn't make me itch my snout, and it's just not doing anything that I thought it would. Archie's mom, I'm glad you're here. So the soundtrack of that—that's right, Kevin Bacon. The soundtrack of that is amazing. Hey, Rocket Queen. Oh yeah, welcome. But the song "I Need a Hero," I'm telling you, every single time I hear that song, it takes me back to the 80s. It's just a great song. And I was singing it as I was trying to come up with what I was going to talk about this morning. If you caught last night's show, I had a really tough day yesterday. And it was that 5% stuff that we're always talking about. Something happened that I had absolutely no control over. And it was a trigger. I mean, it really was. That was a trigger in probably the most pure sense of the word. Not, they said something that hurt my feelers. This was a trigger. This is something that without any ability to control, and this will happen to all of us, I promise, not unique, but you see something and you don't have the ability to control what it's going to do to your mind. And more often than not, it's going to take you back to a issue that is unresolved. Now, make no mistake, there are unresolved issues in your life. And if your goal is to go and make sure that there aren't any, you don't have that kind of time. I promise you, you don't. There are things that we learn to live with and we learn to cope with, and we walk alongside of it, but it's never going to be something that you can get over. It's a terrible phrase. Hey, Chow Yun Smut, good to see you. You're never going to get over it. You're never going to put it away. It's going to be unresolved forever. Resolving it just means that you've taken the time to look at it. You've taken the time to talk about it. And, well, I've talked about what happened in Lewisburg ad nauseum. I've talked about it with 5 or 6 different therapists. I've talked about it with loved ones. I've talked about it with people in the boat. That's right. We could all use a hero. It's perfect. Do you know I actually put that in the thumbnail and then I removed it? But it's true. All of us need a hero. And I have an unresolved issue. This is a really tough one. It's never going to be resolved. I got to a point where I don't dream about it as often as I used to. And I used to dream about it so often that it started to become an issue with sleep. I was afraid of going to bed, and I spent a lot of time in therapy trying to come to grips with that and trying to figure out what shape that's going to take going forward. And I'm going to dream about that probably forever. I mean, I'd like to believe that someday will stop, but it might not. And that's just, it is what it is. And I dreamt about it last night, but I only dreamt about it once, and it was right before I got up. I mean, literally right before I got up. And I owe that to a friend who most assuredly was a hero. Denise, good to see you. And if you talked to this person and said that, they would scoff. This is not a person that's in this game, but it's just a person that I trust and a person that I wasn't messed up about waking up. You got to call somebody in the middle of the night is a tough thing to do. I'm freaking wore out, feeling, and I got work. You got a 10-hour shift and you're already worn out. Tommy Bird, that sucks. Can we get some ones for Tommy Bird? It's going to be a rough day, but you will overcome. I promise you will. So after seeing, so if you didn't catch what happened, I something that I witnessed in prison that gave me PTSD for real. Like this is something that messed with my sleep patterns and really sort of tore me up. And I was living with this for a long time. I don't talk about it very often because I don't have to. I don't journal very often about it because I don't have to. But yesterday, my brother, I asked him if anyone wants to get mad at Johnny. I said to him, I have been waking up with night sweats for the past week. Has this ever happened to anyone here? It happens to me all the time. It does. It happens to me all the time. And if you journal about, like when you get up, start writing. Grab your journal and start writing down. And you go, what am I going to write? Just write. Put the pen to paper. Mambo, dog face, banana patch, right? Red fender, had a red bike once. Write whatever the hell's in your brain. It will come out as an info dump. And you probably will not make a whole lot of sense as you read it. You look at it and go, this is stupid. I'm going to stop writing this. No, continue to write. Get everything that's in there out until you're done. Just keep writing. Yes, my dreams are incredibly lucid, Danique. Very often I struggle in the moment to distinguish between the dream world and reality. It's very, very real. I also suffer from a phenomenon where you wake up in your dream, literally wake up in your dream, so you're not conscious, but you'll be in the middle of a nightmare and you'll sit up in bed and go, oh, thank God. You know what I mean? Like it's over. And then the walls start to melt because you're still inside the dream. And sometimes I'll wake up 3 or 4 times in my dream before I wake up in the real world. Like I'll wake up, get up, go into the bathroom, start splashing water on my face, and the mirror starts doing something. If it's a nightmare, it happens to me. It's rough. When my dreams are good, it's fantastic. When my dreams are not, it's horrifying. And the more I journal, the more I get control over that, because that's the second shift. Science has told us that your brain does not go to sleep. We don't go to sleep to rest our brain. We go to sleep to rest our body. But when we go to sleep, our brain is going to take over and get through issues it couldn't get through in the daytime. I use examples. You don't know exactly what's going on, and your brain has the ability in the dreamscape to do whatever it wants. So maybe in order for you to work through one of the problems that you have, you need to pick up your boss from work and tie him in the shape of a pretzel. It's not going to happen in the real world, right? Or for whatever reason, your pony that you got when you were 6 years old needs to be in your office with you for a day, so that somehow that's going to, it doesn't make sense to us in the day shift, the time when we're awake, but the night shift can do that. They can drop a pony right in the middle of your office. It's not constrained by reality. And it's super important. Dreams are massively, massively important. We've also found out that the second you close your eyes, you can begin to dream. You don't have to wait until rapid eye movement, REM stage. Just not the way it is. You can absolutely close your eyes, and as you're just starting to enter from this to that, as you're going into the dream world, you can instantly start to wake up. I totally get that. Also, the waking, let's see here, the waking dream and still in dream, sometimes paralyzed. Sleep paralysis, if you've ever felt this. I went to a doctor about this. I suffered with sleep paralysis so much when I was younger that I would wake up and I wouldn't be able to move my body. And for the first 4 or 5 minutes that I had been awake, I couldn't move a muscle. I would lay there like I was paralyzed from my eyes down. I wasn't awake. Sleep paralysis is a type of dream. It's not that you are laying in bed, but at the time I was doing massive amounts of ecstasy because it had just become illegal in the state that I lived in. And it was everywhere. They used to sell it in GNC, and it was, I'm not kidding, everywhere. People were doing it way, way too much than they should. And they did a big special about it on television. And one of the things that they said is it really messes with your spine. And if you do too much of it, it can cause paralysis. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but they were talking about that in the early 90s. And once I heard that, sleep paralysis became a whole lot scarier to me. But I still get a bout of sleep paralysis every once in a while. The difference is, and this is no joke, not only did I fix this for myself, and I don't mean that it goes away, I'm going to be stuck there, but I'm not uncomfortable anymore. And I will, as I'm laying there, I'll go, I'm not paralyzed, right? I'm sleeping. And sometimes that will wake me up like that, and sometimes it won't. Crazy thing is, while I'm working on this and going through this stuff, I know every single thing there is to know about the legend Johnny Scoville. Everything. I'm a Johnny Scoville authority. I'm a historian on my brother, for all intent and purpose. But he did not ever tell me that this was happening to him. And in a conversation that I was having, I think with somebody else, I said, yeah, it was when I was doing the sleep paralysis thing. And, you wake up and you can't move. And my brother comes walking in the room and goes, that happens to you? I said, not anymore, but it used to. He's like, that happens to me. Suffering in silence, that old chestnut. But not only was I able to get through it for me, I was able to help him get through it. Once you understand things that are happening in your dreams, put a 2 in the chat if you've ever, in the middle of a dream, thought this is a dream. Because if you can think this is a dream, for most people, that's a light switch. It's going to wake you immediately up. If it doesn't, at least now there's a little bit of control. I may not be able to steer the direction of the dream, but I've had terrifying night sweat kind of dreams where I called God, where I started praying to the God that I believe in. And it certainly within the dream steals a whole lot of power from whatever the subconscious is trying to freak me out with. Can I have some ones for my believed Choo Choo who has been hospitalized for thoughts of self-harm? She needs the love right now. Absolutely. Can we get some ones for that? Tex J says, I recently changed my diet to low cholesterol and sodium foods and started exercising frequently. Just sleep is the problem due to waking up sweating. Oh yeah, good information. This is actually a lot less concerning knowing now what you just said. Massive changes in the diet like that, and when you start to exercise, a lot of really weird things are going to happen to you, and this is the possibility of one of them. My brother and I talked about this about a week and a half ago. We just moved to another country, and you want to talk about changing your diet. We do a lot more protein than we ever have. We don't do any preservatives or additives. There aren't any. And we're very regular in our eating habits. Like we have a time that we get up in the morning, about 4 to 4:30. We eat breakfast right then. I mean, everything is regimented in a way that it wasn't, but it has caused massive disruption in the body. There's so many things that have happened, and one of them is sweat's bad. There's poison that you're going to be getting out of your body, especially when you start working out. It changes the body in a big way, and there's stuff we've got in our body, believe it or not, that might have been hanging out since college. And changing your diet, losing weight, a lot of the stuff that's got tucked away here and there, you'll start to get those poisons out. Isn't your brother your hero? You bet he is, without a shadow of a doubt. It's pretty damn funny. I'm glad you said that because, I pick on him all the time for being a hero, a legend. It's a term he absolutely hates. Did you ever read Freud's theories about dreams and dreaming? I have. I'm not a huge Freud guy, to be honest, but yeah, I have. But I'll tell you something about that legend. He's a guru. Make no mistake, he is. And it's been fascinating to watch him kind of as he's becoming a new guy, new world, new person. He's working out a whole lot more. He's changed his diet, and he's really kind of focused on this new chapter in his life. And the dude says things that will freeze me in my tracks. And more importantly, he'll say things that will lock me out, right, of freezing in my tracks, that will literally propel me in directions that really get me thinking. And it's fascinating. It's fantastic. But last night when I saw this video, I got to relive a guy getting stomped to death while I watched. And I could hear the noises. I'm not trying to bum anybody out. It's not a pleasant subject matter, but it's like dropping a pumpkin. It's a horrific noise, especially if it was just a pumpkin drop. But when you know what it is, so after watching the video, it was in my head. If I closed my eyes, I could see it. Like I could smell the halls at Lewisburg, on J Block. It was instant. The silence, from a prison unit going from the loudest thing you've ever heard in your life to dead silence. I was there reliving every bit of that, and it was frightening. It really was. It was not so much because of the event, but because of how fast I could go from a guy that really thought he had it together to just being the same guy that I was then, like instantly. And my physiology changed. Everything changed. I caught myself. I left the building that I live in and I started to walk down the boardwalk, and there's glass on every single building. And the time of night it was, the glass is now mirrors. They're not glass anymore. And as I was walking by the first one, I looked and I was stooped over. My shoulders were rolled in. I mean, it was such a shocking contrast to how I have been that I was like, holy crap. And your physiology, your will absolutely change your psychology. If you stand up, you roll your shoulders back and you start looking like you're confident, your brain goes, oh, something's good. He's bowing out his chest. He's feeling better about himself. It was shocking how much that could take me back like this. And when I had come back in and my brother stopped filming, he sat down and talked to me, and absolutely no two ways about it, he was a hero. Crazy thing too is I know that, I say this all the time. It's easy to help people with their problems because you're not emotionally attached to their problems. You're emotionally attached to your problems. That's what clouds your judgment on the things that are wrong with you. It's really easy to look at a situation that someone else is in and sound like you are a genius, right? That you know all of the answers. Well, there's nothing to cloud the judgment. That wasn't the case with Johnny. You know, I'm his baby brother, and I'm one of his favorite people on earth. And, you know, he was in the same kind of pain I was, but the clarity of his mind was way different than mine. And I know all the things to do. For God's sakes, I come here every day and tell people about it. But he had suggestions that were very personal to me. He had things that I wouldn't share here, memories from our past and things where he said, if you were to, you know, he starts using these illustrations, try to concentrate on, do you remember when so-and-so did? And he got me out of my head. And he got me to a point where I was going to sit down and tell the story again. That wasn't my idea. Last night, I probably should have said that, because I sat and said, you know, and I realized that I really needed to do this. My brother said, I think you probably should just go tell the story. I said, I've done that show. I did a show called I Watched Somebody Die and I Did Nothing About It. You know, he said, I think you need to do it again. So when I said I made the decision to do it, I did make the decision to do it, absolutely. But it was not my idea. And in that moment, he was a guru. In that moment, he was a hero, make no mistake. And then I did the show. And after doing the show, there's a whole new set of emotions that came, because now it wasn't a surface thing that I was reliving. I told the whole damn story. And as Johnny said, you talk way better than you write. This is something that's a thing for you, obviously. And the world kind of knows that. I said, I know. He's like, can you imagine what you could do in a 30-minute show versus sitting down and being at that table for the next 3 hours? And it worked. You know, there have been times where I just speak into this, right? And then I'll transcribe it or do something with it, because if I'm really on one, my hand won't keep up with my mouth. Now, for me, I'm then going to have to sit down and write anyway, because engaging the hand forces the emotions down and brings up the executive function of my brain. I have to concentrate in a way to write that I can't do if I'm speaking. But an amazing thing happened by doing that show. Number one, the obvious things all happen, right? The obvious things happen. Now I'm not making this into a much more dangerous monster in my brain. I've brought the monster into the real world. And anytime you do that, the monster shrinks, it loses power. If you leave it in your brain, it's like the subconscious. It's like the night shift. That problem that you have, it can turn that problem into a 6'5" tall monster that wants to tear you limb from limb. Once you bring that into the real world, the problem tends to shrink. I mean, it's still as big a problem, but your brain doesn't have the ability to turn it into something terrifying if it's in the real world. You know what? It is. It's fantastic that I was able to get that out. Caroline says, it must be nice to be so close to your brother. Yeah, I don't have any other point of reference, right? I have one brother, and we got close when we were really, really young. I've talked about that a bunch on other channels, and so has he. But a car wreck almost killed him. And for about 20 minutes or so, I knew he was dead. It wasn't a matter of I thought or anything else. I didn't have EMT training. I didn't know what to look for pulses. I was a very young kid. And when I ran away from the car wreck to go try to find someone, because we were in the middle of nowhere, literally in the sticks. We were 6 miles from a road. We were on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. And that period of time where I had a dead brother changed how I viewed my brother when I found out he wasn't dead. From that moment forward, we have been close in a way that most brothers aren't. So it is one of the greatest things ever. But there's, there isn't even a downside. There really isn't. There's nothing negative that I get out of that. It really is a blessing. I wish everybody could have. But but I don't have a point of reference. I don't have a brother that I'm not close with. And sometimes I forget that stuff because someone will say, I have a brother, and I immediately ascribe what's going on with my relationship with my sibling to them. And then they'll go, and he's such a dick. And you just go, oh, oh, that's different. I love both of my sisters. And I bet I love them the way most people love siblings. The relationship I have with Johnny is very, very different. We are fortunate. It was one of the ugliest car wrecks. You would not believe it. It looked more like a NASCAR car wreck. And when I tell people the story, I'm like, the car rolled 4 times, 3 of them sideways and 1 endo. They always look at you like, oh, are you doing 200 miles an hour? We were going around a corner, and there was an embankment. They build up the sides of the dirt roads so that you can see it's a road. So you just have this dirt that's like 2 feet high. And when we hit that going sideways, not only did we roll, there was a split rail fence that we didn't take down. So the car jumped over the fence, and then the hill rolled away like that. So we're in the middle of the sticks in Vermont, and it just got the thing rolling. It was awful. Last thing Last time I saw him, it was his feet going through the windshield. It was really, really bad. But it is fantastic that we are that close. And it was fantastic that I was able to get that out last night because of his advice. That was a huge, huge thing. But after it was over and I sat down, I was a wreck. I really was. It, as much as it had to come out, I probably went into it at about a 4 or a 5 in terms of being really messed up. And then I relived it with every detail and got myself really right back into the moment. And I was probably closer to a 9 or a 10. And I got helped. I got back on track and I got to it before I went to bed. And I'm not joking. So many of the heroes that helped me get through that particular, and it was not the end of the world. Nobody died. On a perspective from 0 to 10, right? That's probably about a 4. I mean, it's stressful, but there's nobody's life's at risk. I didn't lose anybody, right? There was nothing it was all mental, but it was about a 4. My older sister's passed, and I was the one to give the order to pull the plug. Oh, Cricket, I'm so sorry. My baby brother's alive, but his wife is challenging. So basically, I'm alone. May I suggest, and I say this to everybody, if by some chance, Mother Nature, God, the universe, however you groove to this, if they didn't give you the family that is absolutely perfectly suited to you, or perfectly suited to you in the moment, or perfectly suited to you for your situation, or whatever the case may be, then build one that is. The people that say, well, you can't pick your family. I'm really trying not to do this, but bullshit. You absolutely can pick your family. And last night, family members that do not share my blood helped get me past the I got to get this out of my head phase. And a lot of them are in this chat. For real. So many of you left comments. And I want to tell you something. I pick on Jane Aldrich a lot about this because Jane leaves incredible comments, really, really well thought out comments. They're always right on point. And I know that's a labor of love. But I think sometimes we think, oh, you know what? This is really, Tommy made me think this, and I want him to hear what I have to say. Do you have any idea how many people have reached out to me since I started this channel and said, I read a comment, in your chat? In real time, it's the same thing. But last night, people sent emails, people sent left messages. Everybody, to a person, everybody said something where I went, wow. And were they all, epiphanies? I don't know. I haven't gone back and read them today, but they sure as hell were in the moment. It stopped me from where I was, and it made me realize 2 things. Number one, these people all had incredible advice. These people all had incredible insight, because as much as it was probably hard to watch your brother, not by birth, come out and talk about something that's that painful, it's not your emotion. It's not your pain. It's mine. So your logical center is working way better than mine is. So to all of you that took the time to leave a message, I really appreciate it. To those that sent emails, I really, really appreciate it. Interesting. Cheryl says, it's weird, but you guys talking about car crashes triggered me many times. And each time I feel less pain from my crash experience. Today, I just observe my past. How about that? And back to the first thing I said, you're not going to resolve that. You're going to get closer. We're going to get to a point where when it gets brought up, it doesn't have the power. And it's really pretty simple, isn't it? I mean, if you just get down to simplicity, you leave it in your head and it's a monster. When you bring it into the real world, it's still a monster, but it's not nearly as big or scary or hairy or whatever a monster. So the more times you can effectively bring it out, put it in the light, talk about it, let other people weigh in on it. Last night, the crew here, all of the heroes, all of the gurus who reached out to me, they weren't just helping me get through last night. They were taking away all kinds of power from the monster that is this memory. Every time it comes into the light, that happens. Does anyone have any recommendations for chronic dry mouth? I would drink something. I'm sorry, that's just low-hanging fruit. That's terrible. You know what, though? The reason that's funny, the reason that Johnny probably said that at the exact same time I did, way back in the day when we were youngsters, Biotine is right. Listen to Cricket. Biotin is the business for that. It's built for that. And I was going to say that. Biotin is incredible. I was actually telling a story long enough to hope I could remember the name Biotin. But I was with Johnny, and there was a friend of ours who he said to us, you guys got weed? And we did. And we were under the assumption if someone says you got weed, that they probably smoked the stuff, right? Like nobody says, hey, got any weed if they've never done it before. So we smoked a joint with this guy. And it was really obvious really quickly that this was the first time he'd ever done it. And what was funny is they, a lot of times people don't get the brain, it doesn't really kick in. You don't get the feeling the first time around. He certainly did. And it was funny because about 5 minutes in, he went, oh my God. I said, what's wrong? He goes, man, my mouth is so dry. He's like, I never felt anything like this. I was like, yeah, they call it cotton mouth. He's like, what do you do about it? And my brother and I at the same time said, you could drink some water. And it was one of those silly things that, like when somebody says, what are you going to do today? Do today. And it's a funny word, like that stupid Cheech and Chong kind of giggly thing. That made us laugh forever. So that's why we share a brain. So when someone said, does anybody have any recommendations? I knew exactly what was going to happen. Bit. I use it for, I bet he said bet or bit. I use it for dry mouth. I know biotin is incredible. Once while having medical treatments that were going to cause, that was one of the symptoms of the medical treatments I had was vicious cotton mouth. Like a cat crawled in there and went to sleep, like really bad cotton mouth. And the doctor recommended biotin, and it absolutely does. Do today. You know where that comes from? True story. So Spanx Calhoun, my son, you may not believe this. He does not lie to his dad ever. I'm not kidding. From the time he was a kid, every dad has issues. Every parent has issues. My kid never lied to me. It was almost like Forrest Gump with the ball. I said to him when he was a kid, I'm never going to get more upset about you telling me something than I will ever get about lying. Right? I struggle with this. I was an addict. I said, this is one of the worst things about me. You can't let this happen to you. And I'm never going to go off on you. If you tell me the truth, you have a way better chance. And he does, and always has. There are times that I wish I didn't say it because he's really truthful. He's truthful to a fault. But he came home from school, and I called him on the phone. He was living in California. And I said, hey, Spanky, how you doing? He said, good. I said, what did you do today? And he went, do today. Do today. It's such a funny word. I go, Spanky, are you stoned? He goes, yeah. I said, you are? He said, yes. I said, you smoked pot? Uh-huh. I said, how many times have you smoked it? He's like, this is the fifth. Just no lie, no nothing. But then, and I'm trying to do the dad thing, and I'm trying to be, but that whole do today thing just slayed me. Because as soon as I heard him say it, I was like, oh, there it is. I guess the experimentation thing happened today, do today. So funny. Renee B, if you go back to bed, can we get some prayers for Renee B before she leaves? And I'm going to go back, and I'm going to really hope that you weren't asking me something I missed. In the morning, sometimes it's just a different setup. The light that comes in from behind this is a very different thing. And there are times that, like, I always go back and watch these shows, and I don't even need to put the volume on. I don't need to listen to me. I just read comments. Because if you've been doing this for 4 years, there's no content creator that does it live that doesn't have the experience of someone saying, I asked you this 4 times, or I said this 4 times and you ignored me. And if I did, I'm really sorry. What? Oh my gosh. You know what? I am sorry. My brother just said that your son was moved to a facility he doesn't want to be at. This is really the 5%. And this is something I know a whole lot about from his side. Now, I will say this, and this is no joke. I've come here and talked about bank robberies. I've come here and talked about all of the things that are uncomfortable in my life that I would really not like to talk about. But I got moved from a prison for failing a test, and I was stone cold sober. There was absolutely nothing in my system. And I remember I knew I was going to have to talk to members of my family, and I was going to have to tell them that I was getting moved. And I thought to myself, I'm going to lie to them. I'm going to lie to them. And here's what I'm going to tell them, because if I say this is what's going on, they're not going to believe that the failed drug test wasn't because I was doing drugs. It's a horrible story. I had just taken a drug test. I'm not kidding. Like 8 o'clock in the morning, I took a drug test. I walked back to the unit, right? It was like 10 minutes later. And when I walked in, the guy went, "Hey, you got to go take a drug test at the Metal Shack," which is the place where they did it. And I said, "No, I just came back from it. I think you missed." He's like, "Nope, you're doing another one." And I said, they thought I got high from the Metal Shack to back here? Well, how it happens is the unit picks a certain number of people every month on a random. They just, whatever cell it is. But I was on the HOTS. As a heroin addict, I was on what they call the hot sheet, which means they test me once a month anyway. And it just happened to be one of those where those 2 days lined up. So I was like, all right. So I turned around and I walked back down and I said to the guy, "You're going to have to give me a few minutes because I just peed in a cup for you like 5 minutes ago." He said, "Yeah, sure." I sat down, I took the test, same thing, same results. And they peeled the little sticker off so that you can look at it. And they peeled the sticker and he looks and says, "You passed." I said, "Thank you." He threw it in the trash. Apparently what happened was they wanted all of them mailed in. So the guy went back into the trash, pulled all the cups out. There was only 4 of us there. And so the cup that was assigned to me came back dirty. Now in the feds, you're supposed to put a sticker over the top of the cup and sign it. That way it's your sample. That didn't happen with me, right? Nobody did. We were all out of the room when that happened. So it's an invalid test. The trouble is the process of filing a BP8, a BP9, a BP10, it would have taken 7 years, I'm not joking, to get to BP13, which is the top of the food chain. Craziest crap in the world. It's a true story. I used to go to church with in there with one of the guys that failed. That took the test with us, and it was his. And he walked into the room and said, "You just took Rocco to the hole, for failing a test." He said, "Yeah." He goes, "I can tell you everything he failed for." He's like, "Because that was mine." He's like, "I guarantee you, they just shipped me." But the fruits of a misspent youth. I sat in there thinking, there's no way my family's going to believe this. And it's a hard situation because of how the testing system works and everything else in there. I'm so sorry that and I'm sorry that I missed that. It's one of the things about doing what I do. If I read the chat, I don't look like a speaker. There's no, I end up being very, that's the glasses too, but that's tough. And I'm going to be praying for that. And if you want to reach out, Renee, I hope you see this. But if you want to reach out and talk to me, please do. That's tough. Lisa, good to see you. And what's a bummer is she kind of needs some heroes, and I certainly missed that one. But that's kind of the nature of the beast. The beautiful thing is that if you lead with kindness, you're going to have opportunities where you intersect with people that absolutely need to hear what you have to say. I promise. And the incredible thing is, it's going to lift you up. Leaving comments, hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. It's different here. It just is. Mom, good to see you. Hey, Lisa. Thoughts and prayers for Lisa too, please. It's very different here. Because leaving comments, if you go there and just put a heart emoji, it helps the algorithm, to be sure. But there are people who have left comments in here. I have a stash. I have a collection of 4 years of comments that just have absolutely rocked my world. Some of the most beautiful things that have been written. And I have relationships with people. There's one guy jumps off the page instantly. But my relationship with this dude started because of comments that he left that I answered. He always just had insightful comments and was always praising not just me, but praising the channel and what we do and what we're attempting to do. And one day when I reached back, instead of one of those comments that he always does, he said, "I'm feeling really, really bad. I'm going through it. I really wish that, there were 4 of your shows a day." And I went back and said, "Do me a favor and please, send me an email." And we can kind of do it that way. And I've really come to be very close friends with this individual. It's crazy. I wasn't feeling so good. 3 sips of sea moss, felt well instantly. I've not done the sea moss thing. I've read about it. Like, comment, subscribe, and share, please. See, now that sounds like a professional there. And Cricket actually does a very fun show. It's like being in the corner booth at Denny's at 2 a.m. If I misspoke that, I'm close. The first time she said that, it absolutely killed me. I thought that was one of the it paints a picture instantly from my past. I spent a lot of a lot of nights at 2 o'clock in the morning in the corner booth at Denny's. It really is just a great visual. This boat helps lift me up and keep me afloat because although I know how to swim, sometimes I still sink. I'm so glad that Tommy Bird said this and I could put this up. There was a time I walked away from the lifeboat. Just said I can't do this anymore, and it didn't have to do with people that didn't like me. It didn't have to do with all that external stuff. It had to do with how intense some of this was. I wasn't taking care of me in the way I should. I was very much concentrating on this, but not concentrating on this. And after a couple of suicides and a few drug overdoses in a short period of time, I kind of just walked away, and I just couldn't deal with it. I was like, you know what, that's a wrap. And Tommy Bird, the reason that we're all here is because he wrote a letter. I'd like to, at the time, I was like, you cold-hearted. I mean, it was one of those emails that I started crying at about the fourth sentence in, just tears running down your face. And he was describing the channel as a boat, that needed some paint, and all of the teak wood was peeling, and just it was absolutely beautiful. And he kept going back to, but it's our boat. It might not be great, but it's our boat. And by the end, I wasn't just tearing; I was ugly crying like you're in the fourth grade. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And and I can say 100% real. I mean, the hero of that day was Tommy Bird, and I put the channel back up. And you know what? Sometimes God just puts everything in your path like it's supposed to be that way. The second time I was ready to pull the plug on this was from more recent scenarios and things that were happening. And I literally said to somebody right next to me, not only am I going to, turn the boat off, I'm deleting everything that's up there. And then William left a comment, and it was just the timing was epic. It really was. The timing was epic. And you know what? We don't say things often enough to people. If somebody affects your life or changes it or steers it in a direction, I should have said something to him that day. I probably just put a heart emoji or something. But in a comment after the fact, he said something about, the boat does an awful lot, for my life and for my sobriety. And I just hope someday maybe I could do something back. And I thought, holy crap, you know what I mean? Communication's a beautiful thing, isn't it? For real. It's especially for somebody that communicates for a living. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm taking the time now to tell people every time somebody really touches me or really puts that signpost in the road where because of something that somebody said, I'm going to go one way or I'm going to go the other. They affect a change in my life. I'm never going to let that happen ever again, that the person doesn't know that they were involved in that. I think it's important, not only for them, but for me. It's easy to have something like that happen and go, wow, that's amazing. And you'll forget it really quickly if you don't take the time to acknowledge it the way it really should be, if that makes sense. It's almost like a gratitude journaling kind of thing. Text Jay says, Tommy, I used to watch The Lifeboat every day. A few days ago, I struggled with opiate addiction in my past. Been clean off of Suboxone now for 4 or 5 years. Well, God bless you. That's fantastic. And you're not. I assume the MU receptors aren't screaming at you, or you wouldn't be able to be off Suboxone for that long. That's a success story. I love that. I really do. Good to see you, William. Yeah. That's awesome. Recently, life has thrown me some curveballs, but instead of self-destruction, I'm being proactive about my health. I find your lives to be therapeutic. Man, what a cool thing to say. You know what? I find these lives to be therapeutic. And the power in this. Oh, I knew who you are. You live near, yeah, I do. I remember the email. We talked about, I mentioned Joe's Crab Shack and some of the stuff that I used to go, Nassau Bay, Spanx Calhoun. It's his place of birth. Well, I'm glad that you're here. I find this place to be very therapeutic. And, I'm in the older days of the lifeboat, I didn't want to say things that, like, I didn't want to say it's way more. This is changing people's lives because I felt like I was going, ooh, look at me, and it's not something that I'm ever. I'm not fond of that. It's why my brother can't stand the living with the fact that he's a legend. There are things that that are hard. You don't want to ever come across like you're that kind of a person, and I'm never talking about me. I swear to you, when I say that this is therapeutic. It's therapeutic as much for me as it is for anybody else. I'm like the master of ceremonies, but when the boat's clicking, it's not because of me up here doing the Tony Robbins. It's because we're talking as an audience, and the things that people say all become part of the framework of the show. Zero Fox Gibbons says, everybody sees me at work as an unstoppable force to not cross, but I am so not in reality. But this crew has helped me immeasurably. You know what? It's those masks we were talking about, right? We all protect ourselves by sliding one mask on or another. And sometimes you have to change that mask 4 times a day. But very often people are completely different at work than they are in the real world, because you have to sort of, and there's nothing unhealthy, by the way. There's nothing unhealthy about having to change how you deal with people in situations. However, if you're aware of the fact that you're doing it, and you're aware of the fact of why you're doing it, then it's not really a problem. But if you're spending your entire life living with a mask on and avoiding the reality of who you are, that's a problem. I did that for over 40 years. You know, I did that for most of my my adult life. Ashley G says, these lives have been helping me tremendously. And you know, people, I've done these lives with 4 people in them. And I've done lives, and I mean lifeboat lives, because you're going to go, I've seen way bigger. But where we're talking about stuff like this, I've done it with probably 150 people in it. That's probably the biggest live chat I ever did, where we were talking about a subject matter that I love.
And from Massachusetts.
Tommy Bird says, and that timing isn't coincidence. I didn't even know if you would read that email at the time, Tommy. These days I do, but at that time I was happy you did. You've done plenty for me as well. Well, I thank you. And you know what? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I can go back because I didn't get rid of it, but I believe that the first line was I'm not sure if you're ever going to see this, right? But I have to say it. I believe that's how you, and it was beautifully written, folks. It really was. It was beautifully written. And from Massachusetts says, I'm not a recovering addict, but I'm a person who needs connections, just like we all need connections. And the people on this boat gave me something I didn't even know I needed. Ah, what a cool thing to say. What a cool thing to say. Yeah. The opposite of addiction is connection, no matter how you shake it, right? And the opposite of everything else bad. If you think about it, just you could randomly throw out anything bad that is happening to you in your life. I don't care what it is. No matter what you say, as human beings, the first thing that we want to do is we want to go like this, and we want to start to withdraw. We feel like we're protecting ourselves. Nothing is gonna, you know, I can't get hurt if I can't get more hurt if I don't let people get in here. If I'm suffering, I don't want those people to see me suffering. If I'm going through this, I don't want to burden these people, right? We come up with all the excuses, but what we do is we isolate, we withdraw, right? We back off from society when what we need to do is run into society. You know what I mean? You know what? Do you mean in an email or do you mean in a live chat? Here's the thing. I will always read an email. It might take me 7 days to get to it, right? But I'm never too busy, because it's the paycheck, right? Servitude is the paycheck here. Not for nothing, folks. This is not the most high paying gig on YouTube. When, you know, Danny Masterson's sentencing, we had 4,900 people in the chat. It was going so freaking fast you couldn't read it. No, I'm sorry. At the sentencing, we got to 8,900 people in the chat. It's the most I've ever been as a solo. I've done on other channels, I've been in the chat that had 22,000 people in it. But this is a very different animal. What we do here is very, very different. I will always get to an email. It is the paycheck. That's how I get paid. This is servitude. And I don't mean that, you know, hey, I'm jumping into the phone booth and coming out to save the world. It's not what I mean. But what I mean is, I know that when you decide to help somebody for no apparent reason, right? When you, or even make an attempt to help somebody, when you say, you know, how can I help you through this? Your brain releases chemicals to make you feel good. This is science. I'm not making this up. You can look it up. In fact, nothing releases more chemicals, you know, good chemicals in your brain. Nothing does more than servitude. People who go and donate their time at a homeless shelter or at a soup kitchen or at any of those things, a lot of them do it because they have a huge heart. But the first time they go and do it based on that huge heart, they get high. They may not say it in that word. They may not even be able to realize in that word. But that's exactly what happens, right? What happens when you get high? Really cool brain chemicals get released, and it makes you feel something, makes you feel some kind of way. So does working with people, no question. So the Diddy stuff pays the bills. That's stuff that a lot of people watch. But I'm not leaving the earth a better place than I found it. I'm not doing anything that's going to release brain chemicals into my brain that are going to make me feel content, happy, fulfilled, all those cool words. You know, the true crime stuff, you do enough and it starts getting really dark. And it's amazing because you can feel it. You can watch it. The kind of people that it attracts is a little different. I'm not bagging on anybody because there's a huge crossover. A lot of the audience that watches the stuff in the morning watches the stuff at night. But if you're one of those people, you've seen some people at night where you just go, oof, I don't know that I want to, probably not want to have long conversations with these people, right? They don't seem to be as caring as the normal lifeboat crew. And it's one of the reasons I kind of have backed off on it. You know, I talk about Epstein. If something new doesn't come out, I'm not going to rebrand that every single day. That's what I did with Diddy. Every day we just rebranded it because it was hot and it was going to bring in views. And you know what? That's bad. It's stinky and it's not what I'm going to do. William says masks are heavy. You're damn right they are. Odd too, because if you were aware of them, they get a little bit lighter. But if you're just wearing one constantly, the weight will kill you. Once a channel gets that big, it's a different experience. It's watching a broadcast, and chat is just notes tied to tumbleweeds. Interesting. What a great way to put that. Wow. So many incredible. I don't bother to chat in audiences that large. It's broadcast news at that point. Ashley G, I agree. And I'll be honest, as a content creator, this is why I started the boat. This interaction with people in real time, where the unusual life experiences of me, the unusual life experiences of Ashley G or Cricket or Brock Bandy or Tommy Burt can aid the next person in a time of need. I mean, I've never changed. If you go and it says the Love Boat used to say the Lifeboat, if you look directly below it, it will give you like they let you do a blurb. What's your channel about kind of thing. I've never changed a word of it. And if you go read that, that's what, you know, I thought this has got to be the greatest tool in the world for sobriety, right? You can go and turn something on anytime you want, right? You can go and watch something to get you out of where you're at. You don't have to get in the car, drive down the street, go to a meeting, and meetings are fantastic. You know how I feel about these things, but they have their downsides, right? If you happen to be a woman, you're going to go down, you're going to get in that meeting, and even if a guy doesn't come up and hit on you, he did at the last meeting, and it's going to be in your head, right? The whole time you're there, you're going to be looking around going, oh God, that guy looks single. Is he looking at me? Is he looking at me? We can eliminate all that here. There's so much. I thought we can reimagine social media and make something absolutely beautiful out of it. You know, hopes died to tumbleweeds is a beautiful turn of phrase. Is it not? Honest to God, I was thinking the exact same thing. The visual image of that. It's just, man, I love that. I have rescheduled my routine for the morning shows. It's been my lighthouse in the last few weeks. So thank you, Tommy and Johnny in the chat. How cool is that? Hey, back. I'm doing really well right now. I have a little bit of money. I find myself over helping other people, and it affects my pocket from time to time. Yeah, I mean, there's so much I'd like to be able to. I'd like to share with you things about the boat that just would not benefit the boat or me. But I will tell you this: the first year of the lifeboat, there were about $9,000, just under $9,000 of money spent to help people get onto medical assisted treatment and get off of at the time. Fentanyl was really just starting to make the inroads. It had been here a long time. We were just starting to hear about what it was. And I think in the first year, the lifeboat probably did $1,100. So, you know, if this was something to make money, it was a really bad investment. You know what I mean? Even just buying the equipment, it would have been a really bad investment. But that's not, honest to God, it's not why I do this. It really isn't. It's nice that it can get to a point where it's Jonathan, is it not? Maybe this can get to a point where it's self-sustaining. That's fantastic. It's wonderful. But the reason that I did this is for the paychecks that you can't deposit in a bank. And I'll tell you something. I have a very, very close friend, a person I absolutely love, who talks about deposits and withdrawals. And that's life. It's relationships. It's everything. There are going to be times where things are fantastic. When they are, you should probably be depositing, right? You should be making sure that you're putting stuff in, because there are going to be days that are awful. And those are going to be withdrawals. And then this channel is fantastic that way, right? It really is. There are times that this feeds the soul in a huge way. And it's, like I said, I get high on it. I mean, no two ways about it. If somebody reaches out and says at their 4th month in medical assisted treatment, and they say, you know what, I've never been happier. I'm my job, like, I've got a place to live, and they start walking through all of the changes in their life. I've done a lot of crazy things to try to change my brain chemistry. And there just isn't much like that. It beats the hell out of seeing the rubber hit the bottom, the plunger hit the bottom of a syringe. It's a way better feeling. However, the withdrawals come. I could tell you everywhere I was when the gut punches come. I was sitting in church on a Sunday next to my brother, and a guy that I worked with on a regular basis, his grandmother reached out, and it was a text. And I said, good morning, how are you doing? And I know that bedside manner goes out the window sometimes when things are really tough. But the text said, I'm sorry, he's dead. And it was a gut punch. This was somebody that I spent tens of hours on the phone with trying to help this cat. But you know something? It's the nature of the beast. The incredible thing about addiction is, if you read the statistics on the success rates of trying to get someone sober, then you'd walk out the damn door and say, I'm going to go become a carpenter, right? I think I'll become a plumber. But if you buy into all that stuff, I don't believe it. I really don't. I think the success rate should probably be about 90%. In my experience with people that I work with, about 10%, there's just a different kind of addiction for some people. And what's crazy is, I used to say that I was that guy. I used to believe I was that guy. I was in that 10% of people whose addiction is so unique. It's so much more virulent than anybody else's. The other people can get treated. Other people can get cured. I'm different. And I believed that. But I have worked with people that it's unreal. There are people, and with certain chemicals, alcohol is one that, I've worked with people on alcohol that every time they can get 3 or 4 steps forward, we're going to take a couple of steps back. And it's, you continue to work, you continue to fight. Somebody has said, I'm doing all right. Thank you, Winchester Super X. One of the questions, if I were to list questions I get constantly since the channel opened, one of the ones I get the most comes from people who don't use, but they have relatives who do. And the question will, they'll list things. I sent my son or my husband or my wife or my daughter to rehab 6 times. They've crashed 2 of my cars. They stole money out of my purse. And they start to catalog all of those hideous withdrawals. And if you're an addict, you're probably not making a lot of deposits. And then they say, I continue to try to help them. I love them. But how many chances do I have to give this person? That question has been asked to me 1,000 times. It's insane how many people say it. And I understand. I'm sure that everyone who knew me thought the same thing. And my answer is always the same thing, as many as they need. It's a really tough thing. But when people talk about, tough love is not, I'm throwing you out of my house and you're going to have to go out and figure this thing out on your own. Tough love is, you're not going to do dope anymore, right? I'm going to keep you in this house. I might make your life miserable. I might take the door off of your bedroom, right? Might take the door off the bathroom. But tough love isn't throwing your kid on the street. It isn't. And the number of people that I know who did exactly that, and they found their child behind a dumpster, overdosed, or the person, really horrific case where a kid fell through ice, and it was out in New York. They didn't find him for 2 years. Tough love I'm not a fan. Let's put it that way. I had invasive spine surgery a couple of years ago and in extreme pain. I tried not to return to oxys. I came across your channel. I was able to fall asleep to your voice nightly. Reminds me of my dad. Oh man, that's fantastic. I'm so glad, Megan. I really am. And Oxy is Well, it's genetically engineered dope, isn't it? It's heroin made better. They do it in the lab. It never saw a poppy plant, and they can make it. The thing that was always terrifying to me about that substance is that every single one of them is exactly like the previous one. And I don't mean the one on the streets. The M30s on the streets, no two are alike. They're all deadly, but no two are alike. But alpha fentanyl or any of the drugs, OxyContin, that drug didn't vary. If you were going to your dealer and getting it, it's not like you got a good batch this week and you were going to get a bad batch next week, and you kind of did this with your addiction. The batch is always the same. And especially when they first came out, you could smoke it, you could shoot it, you could snort it, anything. It was basically heroin in a pill. It really was. Terrifying stuff. Many people who work through a program leave and return to the same environment. It becomes almost impossible to get away. There's a lot of cliches in sobriety and in recovery. And those cliches are there because they make so much damn sense, right? But one of the things that one of the most popular cliche is you got to change people, places, and things. Before you get to changing people, places, and things, you better change you. But once you've got you changed, then change people, places, and things. Because if the thought process is, I can still hang out with the same guys, you know what I mean? I'm just not going to use. If you go out with 4 guys to throw darts and your drug of choice is alcohol, and you're going down to the pub and throwing darts with 4 guys, what do you think the odds are that one person is going to get the 4 people to stop drinking, or those 4 people are going to get the 1 person to drink? The environment that you're in, I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? I've been sober a decade, but if they said, hey, we're going to go out tonight and head out to a party to try to help people get sober. What kind of party is it? Well, it'll be 35 people there. Every one of them will have a syringe, a spoon, and a lighter, and they'll all be sitting around. There's no way in hell I would enter that environment. And I am pretty damn comfortable with where I am in recovery, but I am not ever going to do that stuff. And it says, you're like a mental hug to me. Well, that's the coolest thing someone said in a long time. Roxana Mathis says, that drug was weaponized. I assume that you mean, even if Oxy was definitely not a good substance, but the fentanyl that's on the street, that is weaponized. It's just logic, people. We have a very logical crew here. And this is super logical. If you sell dope, you know what your goal is? To sell dope. And if you sell a drug that is physically addicting, if you sell something like heroin or like fentanyl, the person has to do this multiple times a day. They are a cash cow. If you get 15 or 20 of them, you're set, because they're going to call you and they're going to hand you cash. And the markup on it, they're paying nothing. There's not a poppy, there's not a farmer, there's not all of the things that you got to do. It's lab made. So if you got 1,000 customers and you bring a batch in and it kills 100 of them, that effed up your bottom line. You're not making the money that you used to. And I've been in the game long enough to know that every time somebody OD'd, they'd back off on the strength. Yeah, they want people to talk about how good their dope is. They don't want to kill the customer base. It's bad business. Stupid. Nobody does that. You think drug dealers are just stupid people? Yeah, they have billions of dollars. The cartels know what they're doing. And instead of backing off, when they found out that this was killing the client base, they raised the level in each pill. And each subsequent batch that they're catching, if it's not at the same level, it's going up. It's never done we're going to back off so less people are getting killed. So I'm with you. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You see this? How good is that? How good is that? I'm going on surgery number 6 for spine. I'm available anytime you need someone. I totally get it. Giggity. Do you see this? For real. This is connection. It's the opposite of addiction. And I don't care if this has anything to do with addiction. I don't care if there's no danger whatsoever to going back. When someone has had 6 spine surgeries and they're talking to someone else that has had spine surgeries, as opposed to me, right? I've never had a surgery on my spine. I've had a hell of a lot of surgeries, not on my spine, knock on wood. Johnny Scoville has. But when someone can say, I know what you're going through, and they really do know what you're going through, that's pretty incredible. Hold on one second. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your patience. So you're on number 4, Megan. That's tough. That really is. Mental hug sounds beautiful. It does. I think that's a phrase that, you know what? I try to describe what a one means here in the chat. And more often than not, I call it a digital hug. You know, for people with a belief in God, it's prayer. For people that, you know, it means something different to everybody, but it always means in my way. I am asking the universe, I'm hoping, I'm praying, I'm doing whatever, that it's going to get better for you. I love the idea of a mental hug. I think we probably need a number for that. Let's make the 3 the mental hug, right? That's a good number. Let's use that. I like it. Let's see what that looks like. Should we try that on for size? Let's see that. I think I like it. I really like it. That 3. Yeah, Cindy G gets it. I like this. I think that's a beautiful thing. So let it be written, so let it be done. From this point forward on the Love Boat, we will throw out mental hugs. We'll throw them out with a tray, right? The 3 spot. I love this. I absolutely love this. That, folks, is a beautiful thing. So, hey, DJ Daddy-O, good to see you. I was just thinking about you the other day. I was walking down the street here in Ecuador, and I was watching people welding on scaffolding made of bamboo, about 13 floors up. It was pretty wild. It honestly kind of blew my mind, but I immediately thought of you. I thought, I wonder if how DJ Daddy-O would approve of their safety, their OSHA standards. The outside of the building, they've taken like 2x4s and, you know, say 10 feet tall, and they've put cross members on it to make a ladder, and they have basically like affixed it directly to the outside of the building. And to watch these guys run up and down on it, jump from one thing to the other, it's horrifying. It really is. It's horrifying. No net, no safety line. I can't stick around and watch it. I mean, I can watch it for brief segments. If you go over to Chase the Heat, you'll see it. If you add a V at the bottom of it, it's a heart. Pretty apropos. I like that. I really do. I like that. And you're right. Now that I think about it, my daughter does that. My daughter she's a young woman, but she got on this kick where she wasn't going to do emojis. She said she didn't like emojis. So she uses letters and, you know, greater than, less than signs and all that. It's like what us old folk used to do before the very cool emojis popped around. I like it. I absolutely like it. Now, if you want to send an email, send an email. It might take a couple of days. And if something is really pressing, if you feel like you're in deep trouble, put that in the subject line. Now, I'll be honest with you. More likely than not, I'm going to steer you to people that can help in a local area. I've got a little thing set up around the country where there are people that are providing services to people. In the old days, I would say, yeah, give me a call if you're going to use. And it set me up for situations that I wasn't capable at all. Thank you. There you go, Cricket. Sandy Wandy, I love it. See, that's what my daughter does all the time. William Elias, my brother, I'm so glad you're here. I really am. So people, this has been a weird day and a half. I promise you it has. But the takeaway for me from this was that I was wrong when I talked about gurus. I did a show on this. There absolutely are gurus. And I've done about 25 shows where they say there aren't. William was a guru, for real. Tommy Bird was a guru, for real. Everybody has that opportunity. My brother was a guru yesterday, and a hero, and a legend. He was working his butt off. I know that legend thing's going to chap his backside. All right, people. There it is. Kristen Melinda's got the Chase the Heat short. If you want to see that scaffolding, if you think I was kidding, you really might want to click on that because that's pretty, that's what it looks like. They're big on OSHA. Yeah. All right, people. I'm going to be back this evening, and I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I really don't. I'm still figuring it out. This is the wheelhouse. This is what makes me happy. This is what pays the bills that I really need, right? Pays the mental bills. However, if something is happening that I feel is a really big deal and it needs to be talked about, I'm absolutely going to talk about that as well. But thank you to all of the people that take the time to hit subscribe, right? To share this or to leave messages. Because when you leave a comment on this, it's way more than supporting this channel. You don't know whether or not that comment is going to be the one that changes someone's life. And if that sounds like it's over the top, then this is your first day here. All right. I love you guys. Between now and the next time I see you, put a little love in your heart and be a hero, right? Be a hero. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.